That's Aaron Gertler you're seeing right there. On the other side, it will be Austin Bursavich as they face off against each other to see who's going to take down this trophy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been an incredible journey just watching Austin fight his way all the way to the finals here, losing in the first round and then clawing his way and winning every single elimination match to get here. He's played so much more Magic today than Aaron Gertler.
Yeah, an incredible journey for Austin to get here. I want to remind you as we come in, we're getting settled. This is going to take a while. We're actually playing best 2 out of 3 matches to see who's going to take down this trophy. So this is a grindy matchup. It's going to take a little while. So grab yourself a sandwich, something to drink, and settle in, because this is going to be one for the ages. We've got Austin up on the top part of the screen with Aaron on the bottom, and you see straight away there's Lotus Cobra, Paul.
Yeah, and both players are part of the same team, and they absolutely crushed this tournament. Austin Bursavich and Aaron Gertler making the top 8, and Alan Wu was also part of that same testing team and finished 9th with the exact same Omnath Adventures list. And, you know, there's not a lot of wiggle room when you're trying to build these decks, but they got the flex slots exactly perfect for this event. Their decision to play a couple of copies of Lotus Cobra, you've seen it do so much work in the matches that Austin Bursavich has played. It gives you a little bit of explosiveness. It also means that it gives you that mana advantage in the mirror. If your opponent doesn't have a way to get this off the board, all of a sudden you kind of have an additional way to play multiple spells in one turn when you're resolving spells such as Escape to the Wilds.
Yeah, we got a chance to see Lotus Cobra basically win a game here in the top 8 against Autumn Burchett earlier for Austin. Without that card, without access to a Lotus Cobra, I think Austin would have just been straight up ran over.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Now, interesting here to note as well that both of these players have had recent success over the last, call it year or two, season or two of high-level Magic. Aaron Gertler kind of burst onto the scene winning a DreamHack event with a deck actually similar to this. It was pre-Omnath, so it was just straight up Teamer Adventures. But Aaron's the one that really put that deck on the map for Standard. Before Aaron won that tournament, it was a fringe deck and one that you didn't see that much. And it's been a mainstay since then. And Austin, boy, oh boy, Austin has had one heck of a run in the last, I don't know, year or two, something along those range. I mean, winning Grand Prix, top 8 back-to-back players tours, really impressive stuff from Austin.
Austin wants a land. Austin wants an untapped land. If he found an untapped land, he could have wished for a blazing volley to completely decimate Aaron Gertler. And you can see, look at Aaron. He's like, please just do not, whatever you do not wish for a blazing volley here. Oh man.
Oh, so close for Austin. And now he's got to kind of pull himself back together here, right? This is one of those things where, like, I almost just had, calling it a free win would be a little excessive, but still, you know, such a huge benefit from that sequence, but it's not going to happen. So now Austin has to find the best plan B here.
Yeah, it would have been backbreaking. Aaron Gertler doesn't even have a white source here to cast Omnath from his hand.
Oh my God, so close. Any land?
What's interesting here, I mean, depending on what Austin Bursavich chooses to do, he could be put in a similar situation here if he does choose to play 1 or 2 of those Edgewall Innkeepers that he has in hand. Like, is he going to go double Innkeeper and play Giant Killer? Right? So now we're in the same spot, but the other way. Yeah, Aaron Gertler really needs a land here. He could get a land with Fae of Wishes. He would be able to get a Fabled Passage, which is even better in their deck because they're also playing those 2 copies of Lotus Cobra. But if he gets a Fabled Passage, that's 7 mana that Aaron Gertler will have access to if he chooses to get it.
Okay, passes the turn back over to Gertler, who finds a forest.
Yeah, curious to see what he chooses. So if he plays Lotus Cobra here and then Forest, he will have access to 5 mana, which does mean that he can play Granted 4 Blazing Volley to get rid of the Lotus Cobra and the 2 Edgewall Innkeepers on Bursavich's side. Ooh, Auto Tapper trying to get that red mana.
There's that Blazing Volley.
And the thing is, though, Austin's going to do the exact same thing on his turn.
Exactly. It's going to be right back at you. And it's even worse for Gertler. He's going to lose that second Lotus Cobra he added to the board, too.
He's going to lose his entire board. I mean, it feels like that's what you want to be doing here. There's an Edgewall Innkeeper in play. The Lotus Cobra can be extremely scary. I guess the only thing is, he won't have a follow-up. Actually, he will. He'll be able to cast Blazing Volley, then drop a land, and then just hard cast the Fae of Wishes. And you know what? One really interesting note is a lot of the lists that was playing this Omnath Adventures deck didn't necessarily even play that card.
No.
In their sideboard.
It's another one that you mentioned of those, really nice choices from these players to help out with the mirror.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, Alan Wu actually was saying, we think we did a really good job of just nailing the metagame. Their main deck, I believe, was built basically ideally for this tournament, and also their sideboard decisions, right? That Wishing for a Fabled Passage was huge in several of these games, along with the Blazing Volley, and also the Fling. I mean, what is Austin Bursavich's Fling counter for this top 8? 6? 7?
It really does seem to be his preferred way to end a game.
Yeah. No, and he set that up beautifully in that last game, too. I mean, he was going up against the face-up negate against Gabriel Nassif, but knew that with the time running out, his only option was to go for the Fling, then replay that Fae of Wishes to get a negate for the win. So, I mean, again, his play over the course of this top 8 has been extremely impressive.
All right, well, in comes the team for a chippy little 1 point of damage here for Austin.
This is a scrappy game.
It is. Now he's going to play the big Beanstalk Giant past turn back. Brazen Borrower to stem the bleeding a little bit here.
Yeah.
But
Gertler's
is it
mana
good enough?
Is extremely awkward here. 4/4 island and a red source here.
Well,
Meanwhile, Austin.
Yeah. You're used to seeing a Triome on the battlefield. Those kind of the glue lands that bring everything together, but that Omnath not even castable at this point. 1 blue source for the Borrower means that, you can cast Petty Theft, but you're not going to be able to cast a Borrower.
Right. And now with the double land drop, he's going to be able to get that second impactful trigger from the Omnath, meaning that he will be able to play a second Beanstalk Giant this turn if he plays a land. So
they're just keeping it simple here, aren't they, Paul? I mean, Austin's just like, here's an 8/8. I'm going to kill you with this.
Yeah.
Make it a 9/9.
Let's see. So we got, he's got 7 mana. He can play that, and he can also tap Fae of Wishes if he wants to get him for even more damage here.
Yeah, this is going to force the issue on the Petty Theft to put that Beanstalk Giant back into hand just so that Gertler doesn't just get smashed here for 10. Instead, it's only going to be 1. There's the Plains. All the basic lands you could ever want here for Gertler, but it looks way too late. Perhaps the Giant Killer? No, it is going to be Omnath here.
Yeah.
But that's just not going to do enough, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Gertler's really hoping for something like a Lucky Clover off the top, knowing that Bursavich does have that Beanstalk Giant and also that Omnath in play. So really needs to find something like a Clover so you can get rid of multiple giant monsters on the table. But yeah, his back is definitely against the wall here. I do not believe that Austin has lethal because he can tap down one of the creatures, but the other creature can get in front of that Beanstalk Giant. So that means Gertler would only be taking 5. But it would force the Fae of Wishes to just chump. Or alternatively, rather, he could force Omnath to chump.
Down to the bottom of the barrel here for Gertler in game 1 of our championship match. If you're just tuning in, we're just getting underway here in a best 2 out of 3 matches.
Excuse me. This is yet again another Fae of Wishes lethal. Fae of Wishes here for Red Cat melee, and exactly enough to kill Aaron Gertler.
Exactly 13 there.
Yep.
4 damage off the melee. A red mana left over there from that Ketria Triome is perfectly enough. You found it, Paul. And guess what? So did Austin. And it's going to be a good game here from Gertler, as Austin's going to take really a pretty easy game 1 all told. I mean, that's about as straightforward as you're going to get for this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. You didn't see anybody kind of go off with a lucky clover or anything like that. Although, to be fair, Bursavich did get a lot of mileage out of that Omnath that he had in play.
That's right. And that really was one of the reasons that he was able to pull ahead. Also, the players traded blazing volleys, but that seemed to benefit Austin a little bit more. And each of those things, in combination with the fact that Gertler's mana really did not cooperate, meant that Austin Bursavich had a pretty straightforward victory there and finds himself up 1-0. Now, again, we've talked about this before, Paul, but just to touch on it again, sideboarding is a little bit weird with these decks because of the wish board.
Yeah. I mean, what we've seen so far is mostly just Austin choosing to board out a couple of Brazen Borrowers and then just bring in a couple of Disputes out of the sideboard, still keeping a negate and a neutralize in sideboard for cards to wish for, because we've seen sometimes these games do go long, and it is important to be able to wish for multiple counter spells in this matchup to try to assemble the 1-2 punch of Beanstalk Giant plus Fling while also having counterspell backup.
Looks like a mulligan here for Aaron. Got that Shredded Sails in the opener as well.
Yeah, they're playing 2 copies of it in the sideboard, so they can bring one in and probably just keep the other one in the board.
Well, he'll be happy he has it. You see that Lucky Clover in the hand there for Austin. Looks like Gertler's going to lead off with a Fabled Passage. Get some more basics onto the battlefield, as we've seen him do.
Yeah.
It's going to play that Mountain, so he has the Shredded Sails available, or Bone Crusher Giant can be stomped onto something too, but right away,
we are shredding some sails.
Boom. Shatter that thing and get that out of here. So Gertler manages to get rid of Lucky Clover with no bonus whatsoever there for Austin, so that was clean.
Yeah, and Aaron does not want to expose this Innkeeper to a stomp without at least getting a little bit of value here. So if he does anything, he'll likely be running out that Innkeeper next turn and then just play out the Bone Crusher Giant.
Right, that's one of the plays that you'll see Aaron make pretty consistently. Players that have been playing with this type of deck for a while know that it's often worth it to just hold the card in your hand. The only thing you're giving up here is a potential point of damage and a little bit of mana efficiency, but you get a whole card back, and really that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And if you're on Austin's side, going to be trying to get that Edgewall Innkeeper off the battlefield as quickly as possible. And also, if you can see, he could cast Fertile Footsteps so that he can line up a Beanstalk Giant next turn, but it looks like he wants to minimize taking damage here and is choosing to run out the Bone Crusher Giant instead. Gotta stay healthy enough so you don't get flinged out.
That's right. Players are going to just trade off resources here. Austin protecting life total. Aaron still at a healthy 20 here and going to resolve Fertile Footsteps.
Yeah, but Aaron not really, Aaron's playing a fair game so far, but not really drawing any of those cards that kind of puts him ahead on cards just yet. We haven't seen him profit off of an Edgewall Innkeeper. There's no Lucky Clover, no Escape to the Wilds, no Omnath. So definitely looking for one of those cards.
Yeah, this has very much just been a straight adventure game here for Gertler. And frankly, that's not enough, right? These decks have the ability to go so far over the top that you really do need those tools if you're going to expect to win a medium or long game.
Yeah. So now Austin has the ability to wish for a card here. He might Fertile Footsteps here get a land, play the branch lock pathway, then wish for something. So then the question is, does he want to just go for Escape to the Wilds or find something a little bit more reactive? My guess is, I mean, given that he doesn't really have a whole lot going on, might just go for an Escape to the Wilds here. And it looks like that's what he got.
Here's Beanstalk Giant as a 7/7 hitting the battlefield for Gertler. Again, continuing his very fair play, at least as fair as it gets when you have adventure creatures in your deck. A bunch of 2-for-1s, but boy, this matchup comes down to 4-for-1s. That's what the name of the game is here, and that's why Austin went and got Escape to the Wilds. He wants to get the steamroller going here.
Yeah. So Austin's feeling relatively good here. He's going to be able to resolve this Escape to the Wilds and try to find some cards. But at the same time, you have to be very careful about managing your life total. So just probably thinking about how he wants to tap his mana here before casting the Escape to the Wilds. At the very least, he can play the Escape to the Wilds here and just run out Fail Wishes. Oh, wow. Okay. Scratch that. Going for the bigger Beanstalk. Oh, man. He had 2 lands here. That is huge.
And there they are, exactly 2 lands. Oh, boy. And now we're going to see some serious action here. Brazen Borrower is going to send the opposing Giant packing, and then we're going to see land attack for 9?
Yeah, that was such a rough tempo play, and that is the risk. I think part of the thought process there is Austin could also be thinking, you know what? Aaron probably has a similar sideboard plan to me. Probably doesn't have a lot of Brazen Borrowers left in his deck. Probably 1 at most. So the chances that this Beanstalk Giant stays on the battlefield is reasonably high.
Looks like he went for 1 land and hold the other one. So it was an attack for 8, but critically here, Austin is down to 8 now, facing down an 8/8 Beanstalk Giant. So he's going to have to play a land here to get 4 life to try to get out of fling range.
Yeah, but this is going to be a good turn.
Looming.
For Austin, as he does play the Omnath, he's going to play land, go to 12, play Escape to the Wilds, probably find another land to play, which will then give him access to 4 mana, which would then allow him to, run out the Fae of Wishes as an additional chump blocker. You can even Fertile Footsteps and then cast Fae of Wishes. So, we'll have at least 2 blockers in play for this Beanstalk Giant. Yeah, and additionally, I want to talk about what you mentioned just now, where Aaron Gertler chose not to play the land. And the big reason there is because he's got that Beanstalk Giant in hand, in addition to the Crag Crown pathway with that Omnath Locus of Creation. So next turn, he can basically set it up where he goes Omnath, land, Beanstalk Giant, and boom, you get your mana back.
That's right. Land, though, for Austin means that he goes back up to 12, and now he's doing the play that you just described for the other side. Beanstalk Giant to add the mana, which is going to allow him now to Escape to the Wilds. Did he hit anything good?
Well, no direct way to deal with this Beanstalk Giant. He can put a couple of creatures onto the battlefield just to make sure they get in the way. So he can do something like run out an Edgewall Innkeeper, it looks like, and then run out Fae of Wishes, draw a card.
Okay.
So that'll put 3 blockers on the battlefield, which is pretty nice.
I do see a Lucky Clover up there for Austin at some point here as well. There's the Innkeeper, the Fae, the draw. And it's a Bone Crusher Giant. Pass the turn back over to you. Here comes Omnath, and the play that you outlined a minute ago, Paul, is just about to happen.
Wow, let's see. He can... Ooh, he's really close here. He's got a Petty Theft and double Stomp, but can't quite kill or remove all the creatures on the battlefield.
Wow, he's just 2 damage away, isn't he?
Yeah.
Lucky Clover would do just fine, thank you.
Yeah, Lucky Clover. Yeah, Lucky Clover would be great because he'd also be able to get the 3rd trigger on Omnath, which isn't irrelevant, which would deal 4 points of damage.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it looks like one of the Bone Crushers is on an adventure, and the other one is from the escape.
Right. Okay.
Somebody once told me that if it has a golden flame behind it.
Yeah, somebody really smart, I bet. So yeah, it looks like Aaron's going to go for the. Well, it's awkward. Like neither of these targets you really want to bounce, right? Like you don't really want to bounce Fey of Wishes.
No.
And you do. I mean, I guess you can bounce the Omnath and just kind of force the chump here in Fey of Wishes. Yeah. And yeah, this does force the block here because I don't think Austin's going to go down to stoppable range.
Right. All right. So Fey of Wishes gets eaten up. And that means that, Austin, we have seen Austin use the activated ability on Fey of Wishes later in the game to return it to hand and then go get key win conditions. That won't be available, at least not from that particular Fey of Wishes.
Yeah. So now, I mean, Aaron finally has run out of ways to interact with an opposing Beanstalk Giant. And taking a look here, he does have 11 lands on the battlefield. So one of the options could be to just run out of Beanstalk Giant and hope that it's going to be big enough to get in the way of Aaron Gertler's.
And precariously, yes.
I think he has mana to do both. I think he can go Omnath, land, Beanstalk Giant.
Well, here's Lucky Clover from Austin.
Okay, so it looks like he's actually going to go for the line of kill Omnath.
Right, with double stomp.
With double stomp, and then probably just play a Beanstalk Giant, given that we've seen 2 Brazen Borrowers. They only have 2 in their deck. They don't have a third one. So just playing this and going, all right, what do you have? Now, Aaron Gertler can run out Brazen Borrower here. That's 3 damage.
So that does put lethal on the battlefield if that Beanstalk Giant were to go away. Although Mystical Dispute there from Austin says no. A second Beanstalk Giant.
That was not bad. This forces a trade here. So now he can
right.
footsteps, play land, go to 12, force the trade, and then just play all the creatures that he has that's currently on an adventure.
Hey, this is just straight up adventures from Gertler. Nothing fancy. He's just going to run out a bunch of adventure creatures and say, here, deal with all of these. Considering just doing a big Beanstalk Giant, or could go for a few smaller creatures.
Yeah, the issue with the Beanstalk Giant is he can't play anything else.
Right.
He could have done something like play double Giant plus Brazen Borrower, but
instead, it's a lethal 12/12, but here comes Omnath.
Yeah, this is going to be Omnath into Beanstalk. Ooh, also a very nice draw. Does he have mana to... He does not have mana to cast Beanstalk Giant, or does he? Oh, he does. Just enough.
Does. Just enough. He's completely tapped out, but he does get a card back off of it. And he can still play a land here to go up to 16 life as well.
And also make a 13/13 Beanstalk Giant.
Right. Critically one bigger as... Oh, there's a... This is interesting.
He's going to play it?
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to cycle?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, he's going to cycle.
I guess there's no bad hits here. Oh, Giant Killer.
Giant Killer.
I see a Giant. And chop down.
Oh, man.
Back here. Send it back and force... Well, probably a chump here. I guess technically it's not a forced chump.
Well, he can just block with Omnath because he has a backup in hand and a ton of mana in play. So that's probably what he's going to do. But now, I mean, Giant Killer also just a very good tapper as well.
It really is. And again, Aaron has the opportunity to just dump some some adventure creatures on the battlefield. Boy, Aaron really made his name playing Teamer Adventures, and you can see why. He sticks to the game plan. There's Omnath jumping in front as you predicted, Paul. That means that Austin is going to stay at 16 and likely go to 20 life here. But, he needs to find something with his Edgewall Innkeeper. He's got the Bone Crusher Giant on an adventure. That'll draw a card. Hopefully he hits something good, or he's going to be under major pressure from that opposing Beanstalk.
And it looks like he's just casting the one that was currently on an adventure. Ooh!
And he finds his own Giant Killer. And look at Austin go. He's loving it. That's exactly what he wanted to say. One good chop down deserves another.
My goodness. And he's got the Clover in play. He's going to be able to get both these creatures off the battlefield Aaron Gertler is just going to flash out a Brazen Borrower, but Austin also has the answer there in the Bone Crusher Giant.
Wow, what a rip for Austin Bursavich, just peeling the Giant Killer, and he even gave us a little dance there. He was so excited about it. Normally, pretty stoic player, but as Day 9 said when he was talking about him on the pregame, he's like, look, when he does it, he explodes, and you saw some joy from him there.
Yeah, I mean, that is the advantage of being able to do this online. Of course, Austin wouldn't be doing this in a real life setting, but you know. Oh man, that Giant Killer.
And look at this. It's going to kill 2 giants too. Just the full flavor victory on top of just being an amazing draw. It's just too good.
Chopping down the Beanstalk Giant.
Oh yeah.
Nice tank here from Austin.
Going to go ahead and go for a block here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's going to take 12. I mean, I guess, oh, you know what? He is. He wants this Giant Killer to kill the other Beanstalk Giants.
You're right. And look at this. Gertler's walking right into it, Paul. Double Beanstalk Giant. Chop, chop, chop. Guess what we're having for dinner tonight, kiddos? Green beans on the plate, because this Giant Killer is about to chop down 26 power worth of Beanstalk Giant. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was rough from Austin. Once again, by the way, his patience showing up, right? We've seen him go for max value throughout the course of the day, generally speaking, and it has paid off for him.
He's going to the face here.
Going for a double Bone Crusher. He just wants to get the card off of the edge wall, I think.
Yep.
Ooh, he finds a Beanstalk Giant of his own. Boy, this has been all about giants here. Beanstalks and Bone Crushers the whole entire time. Here comes Giant Killer. Let's see what he draws. It's just a Fabled Passage. Gives him a lot of mana and some life, but doesn't look like it's going to affect the game dramatically this turn.
Oh,
now, there's an escape to the wilds, though, Paul. That could be huge. Wow, Austin Bursavich playing beautifully here and being paid off for it, too.
Yeah, Aaron in a ton of trouble now. He's going to need, does he have mana to maybe search out an Ugin here if he draws a Fae of Wishes? Okay.
No, he doesn't have enough to do what he needs to do, and he's going to scoop him up, and that is Austin Bursavich picking up the first match. That was a huge step towards a championship here for Austin. Remember, we are playing best 2 out of 3 matches here, and that was a major step in the right direction. Boy, I gotta say, those Giant Killers were absolutely huge down the stretch for our players. But again, it is Austin Bursavich picking up match number 1. We'll be back with match number 2 right after these messages.
It seems to me like you, perhaps more than anyone I can think of in the MPL, has really chosen to embrace what is looking like the future, what you want Seth Manfield to be to the outside world. Can you just talk a little bit to us about that?
You look at a basketball player, or you know, he's been regardless of he was an amazing player, and he's kind of, you know, obviously he's retired now, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I have to think like that. I have to think, okay, there are other ways of making money besides playing, and if people don't know me, why are they going to care about what I'm doing, right? So it's kind of creating and cultivating the relationship with others, which I didn't realize. In 2015, I was just all in about playing the game. I didn't necessarily care about anything else. It was just a pure competitiveness. And now it's kind of a evolution into, you know, being a member of Envy, which is, you know, they're an amazing esports org. And I feel really fortunate to be a part, to be writing articles and to be streaming now on Twitch and to be gaining a following that way. So there's a number of different avenues that allow me to still play this game as my full-time job.
And welcome back to coverage here of the 2020 season grand finals. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. And boy, that was a dramatic way to pick up game number 2 there for Austin Bursavich as he picks up the match. Now, again, we're playing best 2 out of 3 matches coming in. And what a road it's been for Austin, by the way, to get here. Austin lost his first match of the day, which put him down into the lowers. And he had to fight his way through everybody down there. Of course, once you lose a match for the day, you don't have any wiggle room. If you lose another one, you're out. As it turned out, 3 separate testing teams put 2 players each into the top 8, and Austin somehow dispatched of 4 of them. So that was Emma and Autumn, as well as Nassif and Levy. Those were 2 pairs of teams that Austin tore through in the lowers to get here for the privilege of playing against his teammate, which is Aaron Gertler. They actually tested with each other for this tournament and another group, including Alan Wu and some others. But boy, oh boy, Austin just mowing through the competition in that lower bracket with nothing to give.
Yeah, and he's had some, like every single one of his matches has just been really, really exciting to watch. They've all been really close, and he's just maximized on basically everything that this deck can do. We've seen him win games off the Edgewall Innkeeper. We've seen him Omnath. We've seen him Lucky Clover. We've seen him Cobra, right? He's done it every which way, all depending on kind of, what his opening hand looked like. And if you could look at
Quad Innkeeper, all 4.
Right, he's got one in hand.
What is going on? Now, Aaron would probably trade one of those for a land at this point.
He needs a land bad here.
Really badly.
Oh no.
It was escape to the wilds.
1/1 beats.
Man, but a mountain into Bone Crusher into draw 3 would be just fine.
Oh God, and Austin has the play again.
Oh no.
He can go get a Blazing Volley next turn after he Fertile Footsteps this turn.
And he can get it and cast it next turn?
He'll have 5 mana.
Oh no. So Aaron really really seriously needs to draw a land here, or may find himself just completely out of this game.
Yeah, and if he does find a mountain, I wouldn't be shocked if he just runs that Bone Crusher. Oh no. Yep.
Unlucky Clover. Oops, says Gertler. A big smile, attacks in for 3. And there's going to be blood in the water here for Austin, who throws him the oops, and says good game as well. Maybe premature, but honestly, he's kind of right in this situation, right?
He's not that surprised. He kind of saw this all coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going to wave bye-bye to 3 Edgewall Innkeepers, a Lotus Cobra off the top. Well, at least survived the Blazing Volley.
Should have held on to it for a turn.
Yeah. Austin just needs to put the pedal to the metal now and close out this game before Aaron has any type of chance to get that escape to the wilds going with the Lotus Cobra, something like that, and see if he can do it. I memean, first order of business would be to just get that Cobra off the battlefield, right? Without that, normal land drops are still very slow here for Gertler.
Yeah, I think Austin is debating the merits of either bouncing the Cobra or the Lucky Clover. The Cobra or the Lucky Clover. Definitely valid to do either. I mean, given the way Aaron's hand kind of panned out, you might have to think that he probably has a Beanstalk Giant in hand.
And it is Brazen Borrower, Petty Theft more specifically. Oh
goodness.
My good. And another Lucky Clover. Not so lucky, says Aaron Gertler, when you draw them, when you don't have any mana. Especially
and a
in a deck
Passage, why not?
Yeah, and especially in a deck that's known for putting out 10, 12, 15 lands onto the battlefield. And Aaron is just smiling over there because he knows there's nothing he can do right now.
Right.
It's autopilot. The real question is, how much punishment can he take before hitting that concession?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there was a world where maybe he just hopes Austin doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank. And then if he does find a land this turn, get the 3 lands, play the Lotus Cobra, or maybe use Stomp to kill something, maybe he can come back. But I think, you know, he lost his window. I believe the last turn was kind of his last chance to draw that land.
Yeah, and certainly that Beanstalk Giant off the top is going to spell death here for Gertler, who can do nothing but smile and shake his head, because that was an easy game 1 to Austin Bursavich, who looks like he's on the verge, perhaps, of taking down the 2020 season grand finals. And, you know, it would be poetic, honestly, if Austin won this, given the season that Austin has had going back a season and a half or so. He's really been at the top of the game. I mean, full stop, winning a Grand Prix, back-to-back Players Tours, top 8s. This guy has been crushing, and now is on the verge of a victory. And I have to say, Paul, you know, Aaron told us before the tournament, I like winning, but I prefer to win after a long, grindy game that leaves both players bloodied and exhausted. And I'll tell you what, Aaron, if you're going to win this tournament, that is exactly what's going to happen. And it is a lot to go for. Aaron, you know, works at a nonprofit called the Center for Effective Altruism, and is really interested, honestly, in humanity is kind of how I would describe it. He's interested in helping out as many people as possible, and in fact gives 50% of his winnings to charity, which I think is really awesome. And, you know, he's going to have a nice payday here, but of course would much prefer that one bump up.
Yeah. And I mean, despite Austin being up a game here, you cannot count Aaron Gertler out. He was the one who was able to sweep the upper bracket, get here, and wait, because he didn't drop a match coming into this. Additionally, even when Austin was interviewed, he was basically saying the one person I don't really want to play against is Aaron Gertler, knowing full well just how good Aaron is with this deck.
Yeah, I mean, Austin was giving a lot of respect to Aaron when mentioning, you know, before getting to this point, saying he's the end boss. He's the one who's great with this deck. I mean, Aaron has more matches played than basically anybody in the field on Arena, and a high win percent in Standard as well. Yeah, I mean, honestly, he might be the best teamer player, you know, teamer adventures player in the whole world.
Definitely possible, especially he was talking about he might not have an edge against maybe some of the more established players in terms of skill, which is, of course, debatable. But he was saying he's definitely the most practiced, right? He's played this deck more than anybody else in this tournament, most likely. And I mean, that's what it took to kind of get him here.
All right, Edgewall Innkeeper into Edgewall Innkeeper here for Austin. Kind of mirrors what we saw from Gertler, except for there's that third land.
Yeah, and Aaron choosing to play around Mystical Dispute here, and just choosing to run out Edgewall Innkeeper and Bone Crusher Giant here.
Yeah, both cards that are not blue. And not bad, right? Ends up with a 4/3, has the Innkeeper on the battlefield, and even gets a card back.
Yeah, and now curious to see what Aaron chooses to do here with the Fae of Wishes, if that's what he's going to go with. Actually, he's got...
Oh, this got interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so the Lucky Clover plus the Stomp is also tempting on the Omnath here,
well,
right?
now, I mean, yeah, the Lucky Clover is just putting this all together. Now you can go Lucky Clover, Fertile Footsteps, get 2 lands, and then double Stomp. You can choose to kill either both of the Innkeepers or the Omnath that's in play.
Incredible. Boy, that Lucky Clover was nice. And you can see Austin's like, I knew you just drew that. And nice. Very nice, sir.
I'm sure the two of these players have spent a good deal of time testing together for this event. So
that's right. And you can see they were having some fun with the emotes too, not taking themselves too seriously. I like to see that. I mean, sometimes it can be easy to forget that playing Magic's really fun. Like, this is a really fun game. And I know that this is serious, right? That these players are playing for prestige and the money and stuff like that. So it's not a time to goof off, but at the same time, it's okay to still enjoy playing the game.
Yeah. Austin really wants a Fabled Passage. That would be incredible.
Would have been nice.
So you can still draw one here off the Omnath.
Lucky Clover. Wow, these Lucky Clovers have not been super lucky. But now that I say that, there's a second one for Gertler with another copy of Fertile Footsteps in hand.
Yeah, so now he's going to be able to get 3 land. I mean,
Fertile Free Steps, am I right?
This is just getting out of control here. Now we're going to be able to get 3 lands. We're going to be able to triple Fae of Wishes, at least the red cat melee to get that Omnath off the battlefield, and then just, you know, probably something like an Escape to the Wilds, maybe also a Negate to protect the Escape to the Wilds.
Get that volley.
Well, he's definitely getting red cat melee. The question is what he does with the other 2 choices. I think it's Escape to the Wilds plus counter backup.
Okay.
But it could also be maybe something like a once in future to just kind of grind this game out.
He gives them the premature GG. Like I said, these guys are not taking themselves too seriously. They're having fun. And remember, game 1 was an avalanche in favor of Austin. So Aaron says, I get one too, right? I get an easy win here as well.
Look, if there was an advantage bar on the screen right now, it would basically be kind of off the screen.
Right.
So, you know, it's reasonable, you know, and again, the 2 of these players are friends. They're playtest teammates, so they can kind of jab at each other a little bit here. I love it. Every time Austin Bursavich either is overwhelmingly ahead to win or is 100% to lose, he's always gotten the Soul Guide Lantern.
He has. It seems to be his signature move for the tournament, and Gertler gave him the nice, but this is what's really nice. Escape to the Wilds, resolving into an Omnath for Aaron Gertler, putting the finishing touches on what was really just a crushing victory here, it looks like, in game number 2 to even things up. And we're seeing good game now, even from Austin.
Yeah.
And he's even going to scoop him up. So there's the GG. And there's a quick game 2 to Aaron Gertler to tie things up. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be getting set up for game number 3. Don't go anywhere.
Magic players are some of the smartest people in the room, but which players are the most interesting and why?
The most interesting Magic player I know is probably Sam Black. He's a great pro, very skilled player, but also just a natural brewer. He always seems to be approaching the metagame by looking at different cards than everyone else. I know that whenever I read one of his articles or look at a deck list he's posted on his own Discord, I'm going to see something I wasn't expecting. And I appreciate that.
The most interesting Magic players to me are those who also make substantial contributions outside of Magic. I think the community benefits a lot from having that kind of diverse expertise. In particular, I look up to Stan Cifka. I play chess and Magic and Hearthstone competitively, and his achievements in those 3 games alone, not to mention poker, artifact, and more, are really something to aspire to.
It's probably Paulo Vitor Damadurosa. He's the only person from Brazil that I really know, I would say, well, and so that gives me like a different exposure to different how people live differently in the world. Just like different viewpoints, and then also on top of that, he's just, you know, one of the greatest Magic players of all time. Talking with him, I always learn a lot. He's also just really fun to play other games with.
Jerry Thompson. I remember like 6-7 years ago when he streamed. In so little time, I learned a lot. So I think I started growing as a player, watching a lot of his streams and his articles. So Jerry T is my choice.
The most interesting Magic player I know is Austin Bursavich. His range is just so wide that you never know what he's going to do next.
Sin duda es que el más interesante es Marcio, porque sencillamente su cerebro funciona diferente, o sea, se da cuenta de todas las cosas muy rápido y es increíble verlo jugar, más que nada limitado, que es brillante. Pocas veces lo he visto cometer errores y muy pocas veces le he ganado en el testeo. Siempre era muy meritorio ganarle a Marcio, porque siempre tenía mejores mazos y jugaba mejor.
And welcome back to coverage here of the 2020 season Grand Finals. We are in the championship match between Aaron Gertler and Autumn Bursavich. And as it stands, well, we have one game here coming up. This is going to be game 3 of our second match. The first match went to Austin. So that means that Austin is 1 game away from being your champion. On the other side, though, if Aaron Gertler can pull off this next game win, then it all gets reset into one best 2 out of 3 match, just like we always play, to decide who's the champion. And this is a huge pressure on Aaron right now, because Aaron is the one that doesn't have anything to give.
Yeah, definitely.
Very land-heavy opener there for Aaron. But it does have Omnath and a way to deal with an opposing Lucky Clover, which we don't see in hand here for Austin. How does Austin's hand look?
Well, Austin has a solid hand, but does need to draw land number 3 there for that Beanstalk Giant. On Aaron Gertler's side, it's not an especially explosive hand, but it does have a lot of answers. He's got Shredded Sails for a potential turn 2 Clover, which is important. Additionally, he's got the Giant Killer for potential turn 4 Omnath here from Austin Bursavich.
Okay. So answers and a threat with the Omnath. Not a bad combo there. There's an Edgewall Innkeeper and another one now for Austin. Austin has options next turn on just running out Beanstalk Giant as Fertile Footsteps. That is very tempting given the Omnath in hand. But in a pinch, could just cast Fae of Wishes and draw a couple of extra cards.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, you're looking at some pretty nice advantage moving your game plan forward. So we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of it will, of course, just depend on what he draws.
Right.
Probably just going to be looking to just keep getting the mana going so he can ensure that he can run out that Omnath. But of course, also just casting Fae of Wishes means that you have 2 looks at more lands as well.
Gertler
and Aaron, yeah, deciding whether or not maybe if he just wants to run out that Edgewall Innkeeper here, thinking about kind of how he's going to be sequencing his next few turns.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times you'll see people think about what the optimal draw would be next turn and ask themselves if the Innkeeper would get in the way of that or if you'd rather have it on the battlefield.
That was actually a very nice draw. I don't know if Austin's going to go for it. Okay, he's not. I thought one possible angle here was for him to Beanstalk Giant for a white source, then cast Giant Killer to draw 2 cards.
Okay.
But he chose not to do that and is valuing the Giant Killer as a way to kill a turn 4 Omnath.
That's right. And as it stands,
I'm not sure about that, though.
Yeah,
I really feel like you want to develop your mana and draw 2 cards. He went with the play that draws him 2 cards, but I mean, I don't know.
Keeping as many resources in hand here is what Austin's done. Even found a Lucky Clover, but it's just a little awkward here, isn't it?
Yeah, imagine if of course his draw would be completely different, so you can kind of throw that out the window. But if he did have another land here, he would have been able to go Clover into the other Beanstalk Giant.
Might have to take his medicine here and just go for the Fertile Footsteps to try to set up for Omnath next turn. The forest unfortunately precludes Omnath from hitting the battlefield here for Austin.
Yeah. Couple of options here. I think most likely probably wants to just find a lane here, make sure he can get the mana to cast Omnath and then play Lucky Clover, right? Because that'll continue to allow him to ramp, and next turn he can still cast another Fertile Footsteps. So he's gonna get a white source here, then play Lucky Clover, and then he'll be well set up next turn.
Okay, so there's the white source, there's the Clover, there's the 2 damage, pass back to you. Clover off the top here for Gertler. Perhaps not the best timing for it, but maybe better late than never.
Yeah, and Gertler, you don't get a whole lot of value by just running out turn 4 Omnath, especially when you don't have the Fabled Passage. So maybe Aaron is looking to just go Edgewall Innkeeper into cast Bone Crusher Giant.
No, just gonna run out the Omnath. Interesting. Yeah. And look at that. Finds a Beanstalk Giant off of the Omnath, so that will set up a potentially explosive turn next turn.
Yeah, but Austin also just has the answer here. So here, I do think you want to prevent Aaron from being able to untap here and play Land Escape to the Wilds, right? Which is a common way for Aaron to kind of go off. So I think it is very important here for Austin to be able to get that Omnath off the battlefield. So what he'll probably do here, get 2 more lands here off the Beanstalk Giant, then chop down this Omnath. Although with the Lucky Clover in play, he won't actually be able to cast the Giant Killer that chops down because it'll fizzle, as the copied version of chop down will kill the Omnath, and then the original target for Giant Killer will
get countered by the game.
Will have no targets.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, but you got to figure that he's going for the chop down after having kept it in hand. Really, this is the situation that you wanted it for.
Yeah,
Gertler
you cannot.
Decided, go ahead.
Yeah, you cannot let this Omnath. You cannot let Aaron untap with Aaron Gertler. You cannot let Aaron untap with that Omnath in play.
And there goes that Giant Killer to the graveyard as you described, Paul. That's not in the adventure zone.
And there was that escape to the wilds. Yeah,
Wow.
This turn would have been ridiculous. I mean, as is, Aaron's still going to have a nice turn here, right? You're going to be able to go Clover, get 2 lands. So, still kind of developing his mana. So we're kind of in for a decently long game here.
Aaron told us that he likes to play those super grindy games, and looks like he's going to get his wish here for game 3 in our second match. And he needs to come out ahead in this or he's done.
And we've seen both of these players actually play several very grindy mirror matches. We saw Aaron Gertler play against Gabriel Nassif, and looked extremely comfortable doing so. He just knew exactly what to get with his wish targets. He's played this deck a million times. So, I mean, yeah, he is looking very forward to playing games like this.
That's right. It suits his play style. There's a big escape to the wilds for Austin. And he finds some lands in Omnath.
Yeah, so
Beanstalk.
So he can run out an Omnath here if he wants. He can also just choose to put more lands onto the battlefield here with Fertile Footsteps. One other card that I kind of want to talk about a little bit here is the 1 copy of Shatterskull Smashing that this team has chosen to play. It's one of those things where if you expect the field to not be overly aggressive, it is very, very powerful. We already saw Austin in a previous match use it to just get both an Omnath and a Bone Crusher Giant off the battlefield.
That's right. And you see that Austin has it in his kind of exiled temporary hand there. And Aaron actually has his copy on the battlefield as a land already.
Yeah.
But can you imagine that? I mean, you're talking about a land that killed 2 key threats. Like,
right.
Super impressive.
Yeah, and even for the mirror, right? You see how long sometimes these mirror matches can go. It gets really grindy. Both players have a ton of lands in play, and it's all about Beanstalk Giant advantage. And imagine if your opponent has 2 Beanstalk Giants in play, you're going to have a Shatterskull Smash basically be able to get both of them off the battlefield because of the clause of if X is 6 or greater, it deals double damage, right? So.
Okay, so Aaron's going to pass the turn back over to Austin. But you can tell how far ahead Austin is, at least on board. Omnath plus Lucky Clover versus, and also an Innkeeper versus just Lucky Clover, at least currently for Aaron.
Yeah, Austin's got the backup Omnath here. We do see a face-up Giant Killer here, exiled by Escape to the Wilds from Aaron Gertler. So you can definitely expect this Omnath to die. I wonder if Austin is. We've seen him do this many times before, right? Bounce Fae of Wishes, wish for something that kills my opponent.
Yes.
So we could very well see this again, where maybe he bounces the Fae of Wishes, wishes for, some kind of counterspell or of some sort.
Yeah, normally it's like you kind of go through these stages with Magic where, like, at first you just need to know what your cards do. Then you need to know what your opponent's cards can do as well. And at some point you start thinking about the cards that you have in your library, but that you haven't drawn yet. And now we're in the next level where you have to think about the cards in your sideboard that you might need to get to win a game as well. It's like an expanded library if you're playing Granted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's Omnath replacement. And Aaron's like, okay, sure, you got another one.
Yeah, Austin's the one that has an advantage when it comes to the board, but Aaron does have what looks to be the mana advantage. So This next turn from Aaron is going to be huge. We're going to have to see if he can somehow find a way to kind of stabilize after everything that Austin chooses to cast this turn.
Yeah, Aaron's got 11 lands on the battlefield to 9 right now for Austin, but Austin still has a land drop to give. That would bring him back up to 10.
You're right.
But then, of course, going back to Gertler, up to 12 with a land drop, assuming he finds one.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to be one of the most pivotal moments of this entire series right here. What Austin chooses to do, you have so many options, right? You have a Lotus Cobra, you've got mana, you have Fertile Footsteps. What do you want to play around? What's Aaron showing? What can he get? Do I want to put too many 4-power creatures on the battlefield? What are the 3 cards that Aaron has in his hand? He's kind of going through all of this. And it's extremely difficult to navigate, especially with all the mana that both players have on the table.
Right. It's like you can do so much because of the amount of card advantage plus mana that this deck produces. It's a matter of navigating through it correctly to narrow down the cards that you really need, to make sure that your opponent doesn't have the stuff that can kill you, etc. And, because anybody can just start dragging cards forward and casting stuff. And you know what? There's a lot of games that'll win you. I mean, when you have an advantage this big, sometimes you can just cast a whole bunch of things and be like, do I win yet? But when you get to this level of play where both players are effectively experts with the deck, it's different. You really need to make sure that you're careful about what you tap, when you tap, and if you can find victories where they may not normally be.
So what, is Austin 2 damage shy of being able to fling for the win here?
Looks like it. He's caught Aaron down to 6.
Yeah, because he could bounce Fae of Wishes, wish, get a fling, but he's only got a 4-power creature in play.
Looks like he is going to go for the bounce Fae of Wishes. This is second main phase here for Austin. And wish. So let's see what Austin gets. This is huge.
He can fling and Primal Might for 1. So he's because he's getting 2 cards, right? He's actually 1 short?
Yes. He could Primal Might for 1 and fling.
Wait, did he have a land drop for this turn? He could have had the kill, right? Oh, no, he didn't have a land drop. Okay.
So he's going to pass the turn back, but still, Austin extremely threatening here. It looks like he got negate and fling, and he's got a much bigger board state, and Aaron Gertler absolutely has his hands full this turn. He has a lot of things that he needs to prevent from happening because there's lethal on the battlefield. There's lethal with a fling plus a beanstalk or any of these creatures potentially.
Yeah, because there is no window where he can giant killer the Beanstalk Giant in response. Austin Bursavich, if the Beanstalk Giant resolves, can then immediately cast Fling, as he will have priority.
That's right. And the only way to get out of it is to counter the Flame.
Right. But Austin found the backup here in the negate. So I think Austin may very well have this.
Yeah, based on what we're seeing here, that does seem to be the case because Aaron does not have the tools right now to deal with this, and that's why he's casting Edgewell Innkeeper. He's going to cast Bonecrusher Giant to try to find some way to interact here because Bursavich has him in check. He says, I've got you where I've got the Fling, the Negate, and the Beanstalk Giant. Here comes Bonecrusher to try to draw a card.
Nope,
it's just another Edgewell Innkeeper, and that is simply not enough. Aaron Gertler on his last legs here, trying to find some way out of this mess that Austin Bursavich put him in. And Austin is on the verge of becoming your 2020 season Grand Finals champion. All he needs is for Aaron to pass the turn back with just not quite enough mana here. And that looks like exactly what's about to happen.
And he's been doing this the entire top 8. I feel he has won more games flinging his opponents out than through any other means, I'm fairly certain. And he's going to do it again here.
He is, and you see the nod of recognition there from Aaron Gertler as he looks and says, I don't think there's any possible way out. Austin Bursavich is on the verge of victory, and here it comes. There's a concession. Austin Bursavich is your 2020 season Grand Finals champion.
Wow.
Congratulations to Austin picking up the victory and putting really, the cherry on top of the sundae for what has been an incredible year and a half run there for Austin. Again, winning a Grand Prix back-to-back PT Players Tour Top 8s, and now your 2020 season Grand Finals champion is Austin Bursavich.